You are a face in a sea of digital camouflage, just another recruit on a flat, dusty rifle range under a sun that refuses to compromise. To you, today is simply qualification day, a hurdle to clear before you can call yourself a Marine. You are holding an M16A4, staring at a silhouette target 500 yards downrange, a distance where a human being looks no larger than a grain of salt balanced on your front sight post. The wind is gusting, snapping the flags on the range tower with a rhythmic violence that should throw every shot into the dirt. But as you breathe, something happens that you cannot explain. You aren't calculating the wind. You are feeling it. You adjust your aim point by a fraction of an inch, timing your heartbeat to the lulls in the breeze, and you squeeze. One after another, the rounds find the black. It feels natural, almost accidental, like a lucky streak that won't end. You post a score of 240 out of 250, a performance so clean it borders on statistical anomaly. You feel a surge of quiet overconfidence, a sense that you've simply mastered the game better than the recruit to your left. You think you've just won a ribbon for your uniform, but you are wrong. You have just triggered a mechanism you didn't know existed. The range coach walks over, his boots crunching on the brass casings littering the deck. He doesn't congratulate you. He doesn't offer a thumbs up. He looks at your target, then looks at your face with a cold, analytical detachment. He writes a single note on a grease-stained clipboard and walks away. You have just been moved from the general population into a specialized database. You are no longer just a recruit. You are a natural outlier. The system has officially recorded its first data point on you, and while you're busy celebrating a high score, a silent process has begun. Your name is now on a short list, and the passive monitoring of your career has just gone live. 14 months later, the natural outlier is summoned. The transition from a potential name on a list to a priority asset begins at 0400 on a humid morning that smells of wet canvas and dread. This is Scout Sniper Indoctrination, a 2-week filter designed to see if your high score on the rifle range was a fluke of steady hands or the result of a predatory temperament. The system isn't looking for shooters anymore. It is looking for a pattern of psychological resilience. The first test is an 8-mile ruck march in boots and utilities, carrying 45 pounds of gear at a pace that forces the heart to hammer against the ribs like a trapped bird. You watch as 4 men drop before the halfway mark, their names crossed off the list in real time. The system is purging the weak, narrowing its focus until only the most durable data points remain. The physical exhaustion is merely a baseline for the true test. The crawl. You are placed in a field of jagged grass and open dirt, instructed to move 200 meters toward 2 observers equipped with high-powered optics. It takes you 3 hours. You move an inch at a time, dragging your body on your elbows and knees, your face pressed into the soil until you can taste the minerals in the earth. The sun is a weight on your back, and every instinct in your brain is screaming at you to stand up, to breathe, to be seen. But you don't. An instructor walks so close to your position that his shadow passes over your head, yet he sees nothing but a patch of weeds. When you finally fire the blank round and remain undetected even after the shot, the pattern is confirmed. You aren't just a lucky marksman, you are a ghost in the making. By the end of the fortnight, 60% of your peers have been sent back to their units, but you are still standing. The net has tightened, and the system now knows exactly what you are capable of becoming. The transition from candidate to specialist occurs within the hallowed classroom of Quantico, where you are introduced to the math of death. You stop thinking of shooting as a physical act and begin to view it as a complex physics problem. You spend weeks mastering variables that most people never consider: humidity, barometric pressure, and altitude. You learn that at distances beyond 1,000 yards, the bullet is in the air long enough for the rotation of the planet to pull the target away from the point of impact. a phenomenon known as the Coriolis effect. You calculate the spin drift, the way the rifling of your barrel imparts a right-hand yaw that forces the projectile to wander off course. Every shot becomes a ballistic solution derived by hand, turning the world into a grid of mathematical certainties. You are no longer just a Marine with a rifle. You are a high-priority asset, a precision instrument of the state whose every qualification score is now classified as need to know. The theory is codified into reality during your first deployment. You find yourself on a rooftop overlooking a sun-baked supply route, watching two men digging into the asphalt in the pre-dawn shadows. Your spotter whispers the range, 1,100 meters. You settle into the rifle, dial the elevation, and hold for the wind. You aren't aiming at a person. You are aiming at a specific coordinate in space where you expect the target to be in exactly 1.4 seconds. When you press the trigger, the world freezes. The heavy recoil punches your shoulder, and you watch through the optic as the round travels its long, invisible arc. The impact is instantaneous and absolute. The improvised explosive device is never planted, and the approaching convoy passes through the kill zone without ever knowing they were in danger. You have left your first permanent trace on the battlefield. The system has recorded the kill, confirmed your lethality, and upgraded your status. You are the hunter now, but as your reputation grows, the organization begins to track your metrics with a new cold intensity. The transition from specialist to ghost begins with a cryptic invitation and a departure from everything you know. You arrive at a facility that doesn't appear on civilian maps, stripped of your rank, your unit patches, and your last name. You are now a number in a 30-day manhunt designed to see if you can function when the world is actively trying to break your will. The instructors don't give you a finish line. They simply tell you to ruck. You navigate through jagged mountain terrain and dense forests at midnight, moving alone with nothing but a paper map and a compass. There is no GPS to guide you and no radio to call for help. When you reach a checkpoint, a man in a sterile uniform simply points to the next coordinate on the horizon. You are being tested for the ability to endure suffering without knowing when it will end. A psychological requirement for those who operate where the law does not reach. As you move deeper into this selection, the isolation becomes total. You have entered the realm of special access programs, where your identity is exposed only to the highest levels of the chain of command, while being erased from the public record. You can no longer tell your family what country you are in or when you will be home. In fact, you often cannot even tell them that you have left. While you are being trained to be the ultimate hunter of high-value targets, the irony of your new life is that you are now the most monitored individual in the military. Every heartbeat, every psychological response to stress, and every financial transaction is scrutinized by a system that cannot afford for its most lethal tools to be compromised. You have successfully disappeared from normal life, trading your personal narrative for a classified existence. You are no longer a person, you are a Tier 1 asset, operating in a shadow world where the only people who know you exist are the ones who might one day have to authorize your erasure. The logic of escalation eventually reaches a point where the human machine can no longer sustain the pressure of the ghost world. You are now the team leader for an assault element, and the burden has shifted from the finger to the mind. You spend your nights hunched over satellite imagery and floor plans, briefing colonels on missions where the margin for error is non-existent. The mandate is always zero collateral damage, a weight that sits on your chest like lead, because you know that a single gust of wind or a momentary lapse in judgment doesn't just mean a missed shot, it means a diplomatic crisis or an international scandal. You are the architect of high-stakes violence, responsible for the lives of your men and the strategic interests of a nation that will never acknowledge your work. The exceptionalism you once felt as a young recruit has been replaced by the cold, hard reality of operational necessity. While your record is a masterpiece of precision, your body is a catalog of failure. Years of rucking 80-pound packs over broken terrain have turned your knees into a grinding mess of scar tissue and bone. Your hearing in your right ear is a dull hum, a permanent souvenir from thousands of suppressed rounds fired in confined spaces. The domestic version of yourself has shattered. You are a stranger in your own living room, unable to bridge the gap between the quiet mundane of home and the high-definition adrenaline of the target house. The system, always patient and analytical, begins to recognize the depletion of its asset. The consolidated evidence of your physical and psychological wear is finalized, and the formal process of removal begins. You are transitioned from the field to the classroom, handed a set of instructor orders as the system gracefully retires its most lethal tool before it breaks. You are no longer the god of the scope, but a man with shattered joints and a lifetime of memories he is legally forbidden to share.